What the fuck are you talking about?
I asked, wondering if I was in some crazy surrealist movie, wandering from telepathic sheriffs to homosexual assassins to nympho lady masons to psychotic pirates, according to a script written in advance by two acid heads and a Martian humorist.
I'm talking about adventure, George. I'm talking about seeing things and being with people that will really liberate your mind, not just replacing liberalism with Marxism so you can shock your parents. I'm talking about getting altogether off the grubby plane you live on and taking a trip with Hagbard to a transcendental universe. Did you know that on sunken Atlantis there is a pyramidal structure built by ancient priests and faced with a ceramic substance that has withstood 30,000 years of ocean burial so that the pyramid is clean and white as polished ivory, except for the giant red mosaic of an eye at its top?
I find it hard to believe that Atlantis ever existed,
I said.
In fact,
I shook my head angrily.
You're conning me into qualifying that. The fact is, I simply don't believe Atlantis ever existed. This is pure bullshit.
Atlantis is where you're going next, friend. Do you trust the evidence of your senses? I hope so, because you'll see Atlantis and the pyramid just as I said. Those bastards, the Illuminati, are trying to get gold to further their conspiracies by looting an Atlantean temple. And Hagbard is going to foil them by robbing it first. Because I fight the Illuminati every chance I get, and because I'm an amateur archaeologist. Will you join us? You're free to leave right now if you wish. I'll put you ashore and even supply you with money to get back to New York.
I shook my head.
I'm a writer. I write magazine articles for a living, and even if 90% of what you say is bullshit moonshine and the most elaborate put-on since Richard Nixon, this is the best story I've ever come across. A nut with a gigantic golden submarine whose followers include beautiful gorilla women who blow up southern jails and take out the prisoners? Oh, no, I'm not leaving. You're too big a fish to let get away.
Evangeline slapped me on the shoulder.
Good man. You've got courage and initiative. You trust only the evidence of your eyes and believe what no man tells you. I was right about you. Come on down to my stateroom. Wait till you see my suite. You'll like your stateroom, too. To please myself, I built this thing on a grand scale. No finicky naval architects or parsimonious accountants in my business. I believe you gotta spend money to make money, and to spend the money you make to enjoy money. Besides, I have to live in the damn thing.
And what precisely is your business, Mr. Chelleen?
I asked.
Or should I call you Captain Chelleen?
You should certainly not. No bullshit authority titles for me. I'm Freeman Hagbard Chelleen, but the conventional Mister is good enough. I prefer you call me by my first name. Hell, call me anything you want to. If I don't like it, I'll punch you in the nose. If there were more bloody noses, there'd be fewer wars. I'm in smuggling, mostly, with a spot of piracy just to keep ourselves on our toes, but that only against the Illuminati and their communist dupes. We aim to prove that no state has the right to regulate commerce in any way, nor can it when it's up against free men. My crew are all volunteers. We have among us liberated sailors who were indentured to the navies of America, Russia, and China. Excellent fellows. The governments of the world will never catch us because free men are always cleverer than slaves, and any man who works for a government is a slave.
Then you're a gang of objectivists, basically. I've got to warn you, I come from a long line of labor agitators and Reds. You'll never convert me to a right-wing position.
Chelleen roared back as if I'd waved offal under his nose.
Objectivists.
He pronounced the word as if I had accused him of being a child molester.
We're anarchists and outlaws, goddammit. Didn't you understand that much? We've got nothing to do with right-wing, left-wing, or any other half-ass political category. If you work within the system, you come to one of the either-or choices that were implicit in the system from the beginning. You're talking like a medieval serf, asking the first agnostic whether he worships God or the devil. We're outside the system's categories. You'll never get the hang of our game if you keep thinking in flat earth imagery of right, left, good and evil, up and down. If you need a group label for us, we're political non-Euclideans. But even that's not true. Sink me, nobody of this tub agrees with anybody else about anything, except maybe what the fellow with the horns told the old man in the clouds. Non serviam.
And in Mad Dog, Jim Cartwright said into a phone with a scrambler device to evade taps,
"We let Chalene's crowd take Dorn according to plan." "Good,"
said Atlanta Hope.
"The four are heading for Ingolstadt. Everything is go."
She hung up and dialed again at once, reaching Western Union.
"I want a flat-rate telegram, same words, 23 different addresses,"
she said crisply.
"The message is, insert the advertisement in tomorrow's newspapers. Signature, Atlanta Hope."
She then read off the 23 addresses, each located in a large city in the United States, each a regional headquarters of God's lightning. The plot, accordingly, thickened. Brother Berghard, who was actually a politician in Chicago under his real name, once explained the law of fives to me in relation to the pyramid of power principle. Intellectually, I understand. It's the only way we can work, each group a separate vector, so that the most any infiltrator can learn is a small part of the design. Emotionally, though, it does get frightening at times. Do the five at the top really have the whole picture? I don't know. And I don't see how they can predict a man like Drake, or guess what he's planning next. There's a paradox here, I know. I joined the Order seeking power, and now I'm more a tool, an object than ever before. If a man like Drake ever thought that, he might tear the whole show apart. Unless the five really do have the powers they claim, but I'm not gullible enough to believe that bull. Some of it's hypnotism and some is plain old stage magic, but none of it is really supernatural. Nobody has sold me on a fairy tale since my uncle got into me when I was 12 with his routine about stopping the bleeding. The purple sage cursed and waxed sorely pissed and cried out in a loud voice, "A pox upon the accursed Illuminati of Bavaria! May their seed take no root. May their hands tremble, their eyes dim, and their spines curl up, yea, verily, like unto the backs of snails. And may the vaginal orifices of their women be clogged with Brillo pads. For they have sinned against God and nature. They have made of life a prison, and they have stolen the green from the grass and the blue from the sky." And so saying and grimacing and groaning, the purple sage left the world of men and women and retired to the desert in despair and heavy grumpiness. But the high chaparral laughed and said to the Arisian faithful, "Our brother torments himself with no cause, for even the malign Illuminati are unconscious pawns of the divine plane of Our Lady." Mordecai Malignatus KNS, The Book of Contradictions, Liber 555. October the 23rd, 1970, was the 35th anniversary of the murder of Arthur Flagenheimer, alias the Dutchman, alias Dutch Schultz. But this dreary lot has no intention of commemorating that occasion. They are the Knights of Christianity United in Faith. The group in Atlantis were called Mouths of Le Have Keraft. United for the truth, you see what I mean? And their president, James J. Smiling Jim Treponema, has noted a bearded and therefore suspicious young man among the delegates. Such types were not likely to be KCUF members and might even be dope fiends. Smiling Jim told the Andy Frayne ushers to keep a watchful eye on the young man, so no funny business could occur, and then went to the podium to begin his talk on sex education, communist Trojan horse in our schools. In Atlantis, it was numbers, nothing Aryan squid trap in our schools. The same drivel eternally. The bearded young man, who happened to be Simon Moon, advisor to Teen Set magazine on Illuminati affairs and instructor in sexual yoga to numerous black young ladies, observed that he was being observed, which made him think of Heisenberg, and settled back in his chair to doodle pentagons on his notepad. In Central Park, Perry the squirrel is beginning to hunt for the day's food. A French poodle, held on a leash by a mink-coated lady, barks at him, and he runs 3 times round a tree. Padre Pederastia was, as on the night Simon met Miss Mao, very serious, and hardly camping at all.
We have an alliance with them?
Simon asked.
The Jams can't do it alone. Yes, we have an alliance, as long as it profits both parties. John, Mr. Sullivan himself, authorized this.
Okay, what do they call themselves?
The LDD.
The Padre permitted himself a smile.
New members are told the initials stand for Legion of Dynamic Discord. Later on, quite often, the leader, a most fetching scoundrel and madman named Chelene, sometimes tells them it really stands for Little Deluded Dupes. That's the Pans Asinorum, or an early Pans Asinorum in Chelene's system. He judges them by how they react to that.
Chelene's system?
Simon asked warily.
It leads to the same destination as ours, more or less, by a somewhat wilder and woollier path. They rely on Discordia. Do you remember your Roman myths?
They're part of the Arisian Liberation Front, then.
Simon was beginning to wish he was stoned. These conspiratorial conversations always made more sense when he was slightly high.
No,
the priest said flatly.
Don't ever make that mistake. ELF is much more, esoteric outfit than the LDD. Chelene is on the activist side, like us. Some of his capers make Moratori or God's Lightning look like Trappists by comparison. No, ELF will never get on Mr. Chelene's trip.
He's got an absurdist yoga and an activist ethic,
Simon reflected.
The two don't mix.
Chelene is a walking contradiction. Look at his symbol again.
I've been looking at it, and that pentagon worries me. Are you sure he's on our side?
We're never sure anybody is on our side. Uncertainty is the name of the game.